Hello folks and welcome to another InkDependence.com brief video review and water drop test. This time we have Sailor's new Souten ink. Looks like this in the bottle. Yeah, kind of blue. This is another sample is given to me very kindly by the folks at Anderson Pen Company. Thank you very much, Anderson Pens. Brian and Lisa, y'all are stellar. This is oddly one of the inks that I think is going to be my least favorite. It got a lot of praise when I took pictures of my swatches for this ink. It really shows up well, brightly anyway, in photographs. I'm not sure exactly why. It actually looks pretty accurate here on this video on my screen. The thing about this ink is that it's really kind of, I can't help but compare it to Sailor's Sky High, which I think is kind of meant to replace. Sky High is one of my very favorite inks, and this one just doesn't quite measure up. It's obviously very close, but it's lighter and not as deep as Sky High. It doesn't have the same sort of tones to it. I had it in this Pilot Custom 74, this guy right here, but I'm a little uncertain as to this nib. I think the nib needs a little bit of work. Which is too bad, but I hear sometimes they come with a gnarly case of baby bottom, which I'll have to probably get somebody to smooth out. I'm not sure I want to do that on my own. That is a fairly expensive nib. In any case, that nib's a little bit on the dry side, so maybe it made the ink a little bit on the dry side here. Now, so you can read the rest of that in the pictures, of course, on the blog, InkDependence.com. Here it is compared to several inks, including the awesome Sailor Sky High. And you can see it's quite a lot lighter than Sky High, and I got a little curious about why that was, aside from perhaps my nib issue. There it is in a swatch. That looks pretty accurate. Maybe it's a little bit darker than that in real life. So I went ahead and scratch paper, there we go. This is on the back of that same review. I went and tried it in a whole bunch of different nibs. First up here is Sailor's Souten in my VAC 700. This is actually the 700 nib, which I hardly ever use because it had a lot of tooth to it. But I got some micro mesh pads and did a little bit of figure eight and infinity drawing, and it seems to have really made it a lot better. Anyway, that's the nib, not necessarily the ink. The nib is a bit dry, so you see the ink is kind of light. I went ahead and dipped this Kaweco Sport broad nib that I have just sitting around. Just kind of went like this and then wrote stuff with it. It's not in a Kaweco Sport right now. Just an extra nib. So that one is obviously quite a lot darker, and that's actually a pretty cool color. I kind of like that a lot. So if you have a wet pen, try this ink out. It'll probably be pretty solid. Excuse me. I also dipped a Plumix while I was at it. It was okay in the Plumix. I don't think I dipped it very well. I don't know. It wasn't great. Or maybe that Plumix nib was a little strange. It was a brand new Plumix I just had sitting around. And then Sky High as a reference, that'll be better represented in the pictures. And then I put it in my 600, or well, really it's like a Newton 600. I don't know. It's one of those very first ones. But it has a very sort of average medium nib. It's always very consistent. It's got a good flow to it. But it's not super wet, just to kind of see what it would be like in most pens. And I think probably this is what it's going to kind of look like most of the time, which is pretty decent. It's not bad. It's a fine ink. But I was curious about what it would look like if I did a little bit of chromatography, and so I did. Here are those little, well, basically it's water and a drop of ink here-ish, and then just kind of dip it in the water. This is a coffee filter. Little pieces of coffee filter. Anyways, works really well to sort of show you what colors and such are in these inks. You can see Sky High on the left and Souten on the right. Definitely Sky High's got a lot more of that blue, really dark blue element, but the bottom notes are really the same. It looks like it's basically the same ink to my eye, except for there's a lot more of this blue up here than there is in the Souten. So that's going to be it, I think, as for difference. So let's do a brief water drip test. I don't really think this is going to be particularly water resistant at all. And then there we go. Let's see what happens. I'm going to do a little more. Why not? Alright. Oh look, Robin's diving again. Nice. I'm sorry, watching soccer. Alright, let's see. Now that I've watched a little bit of soccer, let's see what happens when I try to mop this up. Yeah, not water resistant at all. Even just this wet paper towel will make it smear. So do be careful with the sink and water. It's not particularly water resistant, but none of these have been, and that's alright. So Anyway, there you go. That's Sailor Souten. And it might not be pronounced that way. I don't know. Anyway, there's Sailor Souten for you, and see you later.